Dun, do, 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 do. Ba, 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 ba. Do, 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 do. Bow, na, 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 na. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum.
You know,
I hate Law and Order, believe it or not.
there we are.
Welcome to
Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies. Hi, everyone. That's Captain Matt Ross with my XO, Mike Pontone. How we doing tonight, Mike, on our special Law and Order episode of Star Trek? How you doing?
Number one, Michael Pontone to my Captain Matt Ross. This is where the fact that we're both Esquires comes in handy, because we're going to pick this apart. We're going to dissect this. We're going to write a Law Journal article
Objection.
on it. Matt and I, in reality, are both litigators in New York City. We each have our own private practice. That pales in comparison. We don't care about anything more than this podcast and Star Trek.
That's quite true, actually, and it's actually more fun at times.
I know, not even ironically.
That's right.
This is the high point of my week.
If we could do Star Trek law, I would do it for a living. So,
now we're talking.
But this is tonight's episode is called Court Martial. It's actually the second court drama that we've seen. Oddly, though, it's filmed first. Court Martial was filmed before Menagerie. This one is from February 6, 1967, and it's famous for, number one, having Mark Daniels, the second most prolific original series Star Trek director, and it's also written partially by Don Mankiewicz. Yes, of Mankiewicz Hollywood fame. You know Ben Mankiewicz, he's currently the TCM host, and, you know, his family's very storied and has a rich Hollywood history. But this is a legal drama. Mankiewicz was hired. He said he never did science fiction before, but he had done legal dramas, so he wrote this one. But before we even get into that, you want me to read the summary of this one?
Yes,
all right.
Please. Plot summary. I got
Here
a lot
we
of
go.
cool thoughts on this one. Giving away the lead, not bearing the lead. I dug it, and I got my criticisms, but I also got my admiration. So looking forward to getting into it. Proceed, Captain.
All right. Captain Kirk is charged with negligence and brought to trial following the disappearance and reported death of one of his officers in court-martial on the NBC television network Colorcast Star Trek on February 2, 1967. Yeah, it's a courtroom drama, but, just as a side, I generally don't like watching law shows anymore on TV. I don't know, being in practice for as long as I have been, about 500 years, I just can't get into law things. You watch law stuff anymore? I just don't.
No. I don't really. I've never watched Law and Order, believe it or not.
Really?
Don't watch Suits. Never got into it. The formulaic thing, the fact that I find it to be quite unrealistic and not actually tackling what it's really like to be a lawyer, which it's a lot of waiting around and paperwork and thinking on your feet. It's not nearly what they portray. But I will say, the two pieces of media that, in my opinion, most accurately capture being an attorney are a movie from the 90s, maybe early 2000s, called The Rainmaker with Matt Damon and Danny DeVito. Love that movie.
Matt Damon.
And Better Call Saul, believe it or not. Everything outside the drug cartel, because, basically half the show is about the drug cartel and half the show is about being a scrappy, self-employed attorney. The hustling and the thinking outside the box and the creativity that he does in his own private practice is, in my experience, the closest thing to running your own private practice in New York. But listen, we're here for the Trek.
Yes. Yeah, we're here for the... Yeah, there we go. We're here for the Trek, but for me, my favorite legal stuff is actually two movies. Every time I need to get some, jazz, I like to watch A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise. And on occasion in court for real, I do say I strenuously object, which everyone rolls their eyes and smirks at. But I also like My Cousin Vinny. I find that to be the most accurate. Yeah, that one is. I mean, I've actually had a judge interrupt me when I'm trying to show an example of evidence. And I think I've even said, Your Honor, please. And, and I like the witness and only the witness to answer. So, and for those legal professionals out there, you know what we're talking about. But This episode is starts off where we are seeing the Enterprise injured after what's known as an ion storm. They got a nice big hole on the back of the ship, and that's in the remastered version. And you actually get to see other Constitution-class ships. Mm-hmm. And we get sent to Commodore Stone's office, played ably by Percy Rodriguez. He's actually a really awesome actor in this. He's in numerous things all over the place, but I like that where they have the background of Starbase 11. That little background set was actually original. They just added a flying spaceship to it, I believe, for the remastered version. I really like it going down there on the planet, and you have the chart on the wall showing all the damaged spaceships over there. And you got Kirk in his green shirt again. I like that entire setup. And you're wondering, what the heck's an ion storm? I'm sure. Everyone wants to. What is that? Do you have any idea what that is?
Well, ions are charged, electrons? No.
Yeah, charged solar particles. Right.
Molecules.
Charged solar particles. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So in Star Trek, it's this. It's basically a discharge from something, because in real life it's actually from a storm. So like some sunspot exposures and things like that. It wreaks havoc with electronics. In Star Trek, ion storms are wandering the universe, knocking the crap out of everything, and why are they in the ion storm? Well, for scientific reasons, like going to the Minkowski Nebula in the Galileo 7. They actually have someone sitting in on the outside of the spaceship to measure how strong the stress of this storm is. And that's where the big hole is. That's an actual pod piece. In the actual original story, which is called Trial at Starbase 811, it's a lot more complicated, involving a vengeful computer called the IRRU, the IRU. It still deals with the dead guy and the same weird kind of conspiracy, but
Captain, what do you mean?
All over the place.
What are you talking about? The original story?
Because this is actually the original story was rewritten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Huh. This script was redone 10 times. Mankiewicz revised it like 4 times, but then he was having home problems with the wife, etc., and so it was given to another guy named Stephen Karabatsis. If you stay to the end through the titles, you'll see they both get credit. And then Gene Kuhn wrote in on this 3 times, who added more of the human dialogue. So the original story was a lot more all over the place, and no one liked the story. Everyone was like, God, this is a nightmare. They had to keep revising it and changing it every so often as they went on. So the original story was started in May of 1966, and they finally finished revising this in October of 1966. Considering this is being shown in February of 1967, that shows you how tight things are. And remember, they're filming as they're going. But what was your initial impressions when they got to the starbase and just that opening? What did you think?
I really liked it. I thought it was good writing where it's thrusting you right in. It's trusting the audience. You know, we're being told the plot points that are going to be relevant for the entire episode. I really like the Commodore. I like his weird little star. And this is the first instance of a Commodore that I've heard since Geordie LaForge is a Commodore of the Fleet Museum in My Beloved Picard Season 3.
Well, no, you had Commodore Mendez from the Menagerie, so that's your second Commodore.
Well, so withdrawn there. Then, Your Honor. Pardon me.
Objection.
Yes. But yeah, I really like jumping right into it. It seems like a much more smart. This is a thing with writing. The writing that I'm seeing in TOS, it's so vastly different episode to episode in its sophistication. And, you know, the last episode, Yesterday's Tomorrow, Tomorrow is Yesterday, whatever it was called. I already forgot it.
Tomorrow is Yesterday.
They washed over the plot so quickly, like, yeah, we hit some sort of black star and sent us back through time, and here we are. And it's just like, this is like adults talking about a serious condition. Someone was lost, and they're attempting to see if there was some sort of responsibility. I'd like to jump right into the most unbelievable thing about this episode that, you know, basically makes this, you kind of roll your eyes at the premise here. In any one season of Star Trek anything, how many random Starfleet crew members die?
Oh, well, actually, it's funny. The captain that has the most deaths on their fleet, in their ship, is Captain Archer.
Oh, really?
No, it's Archer. Well, they have no shields.
Right.
And, there's a lot of people who die, but there haven't really been that many deaths so far on the Enterprise, if you really think about it. You had two from the Man Trap. Everyone was returned back from Charlie X. We could have a running death count just for fun. But
a couple of folks died in the Gorn in Arena.
Yes, that's quite true. A couple. Those are the people you don't see. They're off the planet. Then no one died on the Enterprise. Well, actually, that's true. They had the two tactical officers died on the planet.
That's what
I'm
saying.
That's two.
The point is, you better believe that every time some red shirt gets killed on TNG, there's not a court-martial. I mean, Tasha Yar was an officer, and she got killed on an away mission. No one looked into anything.
Well, that's okay. She deserved to die. I mean, have you seen her in Red Shoe Diaries? I mean, come on.
I
didn't
know that she existed. I didn't know she was in those. Hello. Goo. Matt, we'll record later. Goodbye.
Special.
Go on.
No, but, this one, you could say, it is kind of weird. But it wasn't because someone died. It's as Kirk is going through his, manifest, and he's going through his report, he even says it's very difficult to lose a crew member. And the Commodore says, yeah, but the records show that you actually killed the crew member due to your negligence. That's the whole point of this. Negligence, duty and an obligation, and it wasn't followed through. What are the elements of negligence? Mr. Pontone, what are the facts of this case?
Oh, God. What do we got? Come on. Duty and then breach. And breach and damages. Duty, breach, and damages, ladies and gentlemen.
Quick, cite a case. No, we won't be doing that.
Please,
although if we were in law school, we'd be doing that.
Yeah.
But let's just to go back to just for a second, we did have the original idea behind the story was about how Mr. Finney, that's the person who's dead, actually conspired with a computer to nail Kirk to the wall for being passed over for promotion.
Yeah, well, you're jumping way ahead, obviously.
No, I'm just telling you that's the idea so far. But what we got here right now, we have computer records saying that Captain Kirk did something wrong, but Captain Kirk is saying otherwise. And so Commodore Mendez, just like all good plea bargain deals, says, I'll tell you what, why don't you take a desk job and we'll just sweep this under the rug.
There were a
lot...
Yes, go on, sorry.
No, it's all right. Even Kirk knows, is that the way we do things now? We sweep things under the rug and move on? Well, I'm not doing that, and this will draw a general court-martial. Draw it, I demand it now. That entire scene, that was very tense. I really liked that.
Yeah.
That was...
I loved it. And it hits on a lot of things about what it is truly to be in litigation, which is, one, people have to understand, almost every piece of litigation goes through a settlement process before you're actually going to trial. And here it is, it's nailing it. It's like, listen, we'll let you off, but this is going to be the consequence. It's not a bad consequence, and everyone can walk away. Do you agree? And if you can't agree, then that's when a judge makes the decision for you. Another thing that they nailed, which I thought was really cool, was that he's friends with the person who's going to be prosecuting him. And I mean, that happens all the time where, you have
they
your
were
colleagues
lovers.
and I know. You have your colleagues and your friends, and then suddenly you're at each other's throat. Talking about Echoes of Future Trek, I just watched the Drumhead TNG, which Matt said he didn't like. Is that correct?
No, I like the Drumhead.
Okay.
No, I like the Drumhead.
No, I'm sorry. My brother said he didn't like the Drumhead. But I really dig that in that and Measure of a Man, Riker is made Counsel. And even though, and especially in Measure of a Man, he's friends with Data, but he's a vigorous advocate. He doesn't go light. So even though this woman
that's a little ridiculous.
A lover, well, I mean, here's the thing. Even though this woman is a former lover of Kirk, she's not going to phone it in. She's a professional.
That's true. It's even commented at the end that she's a good lawyer. But I do like the fact that this is like a better setup in the sense that they actually have a prosecutor. We actually, before we even get there, we have the dead officer's daughter like confronting Kirk as well, Janie.
Acting
that was
hard.
a little weird. Oh, yeah, a little bit too hard. But Jamie, that's her name because she's named after him. That tells you how close the dead officer and Kirk are, the presumed dead officer. But I do like that that feel for it. I mean, I did try out for the JAG. I don't know about you in law school. Did you ever do that? Obviously, I didn't get it.
No, so sad. I did look into JAG, but the main problem was when I was leaving law school, I graduated in 2010, and there were no jobs anywhere. No one was hiring on the planet. No one was hiring a single attorney anywhere. So I did go into the JAG, look into the JAG, and they like everyone else had a hiring freeze for a couple of years, and I wanted to start working. And then by the time I started working, I was not about to stop and go into basic training.
Oh, yeah. I say I got to the JAG since I graduated substantially earlier than you. I graduated law school in 1903. But but when I graduated, I went to the JAG. It was before the invasion of Iraq. But what was interesting to me about it is that I thought I had nailed it. I went through several interviews, and I was excited with my parents, and I got this huge package in the mail. Like, you get like an acceptance letter from college. I was like, awesome, this is great. Turns out they said, thanks, but no thanks, and here's every piece of paper you filled out and everything you submitted. But that's okay. Turns out, I was meant for other things. I don't know necessarily better, but I got to meet you and my wife, who was my adversary in court. So here's that. That was also one of the neat things about being a litigator, is that my wife was my adversary. So think, if Kirk got married to Ariel Shaw, that's the name of the character, played by Joan Marshall, that would have been a big conflict. But getting back to our story, we go to the bar, and you notice that everyone is giving Kirk a hard time there. You have that guy, he's saying, I see our class is represented. It goes, yeah. Everyone's giving Kirk a dirty look.
Oh, I just wondered how long it would take you to get a new records officer. You can talk plainer than that. I can, but I think the point's been made.
That was a guy named Winston DeLugo, the guy in the red shirt, saying, like, talking about what happened to your records officer. I hear you have an opening on your ship. He was like, what a dick.
Oh, my God. Right, about to say, come on again. Space is not a safe place.
Yeah.
As McCoy said in 2009 Star Trek, which I actually did like, space is what? Death and disease wrapped in darkness.
Darkness and
death.
It's
a dangerous place.
It is.
Darkness and death wrapped in disease. And then there's a reason why only the elites end up going onto starships. You have to understand, most of humanity is probably chilling on Earth in their post-scarcity utopia, painting.
Probably but you also see the same like biases and confirmation biases of everyone. Everyone assumes that Kirk lied, which makes you wonder, why is that? Why would they assume that the Starship Commander lied? But there is one thing that's interesting about that scene. When DeLugo was having a hard time with William Shatner. William Shatner was going through his own marital issues, and he had to keep leaving the set. He also had allergies, so he actually yelled "cut," as Lugo pointed out, because he was having issues. Like, he had tears in his eyes because he was going through a divorce with his first wife, so he was a real wreck. So in order to make this little bit character who's only in for 30 seconds, Mark Daniels had the camera come really close, and he says, "Look at my fingers," and pretend that's William Shatner. So if you watch it again, he's actually not really looking at eye level exactly. But he's looking at Mark Daniels' fingers, but the director's fingers. But that aside, that little bit over there is where we find out that Kirk's being brought up on charges and everyone's already against him. But how convenient is it? They're at the starbase where the dead officer's daughter is. We happen to have the entire court-martial team all right there. It's a little bit convenient, but I'll let it pass. Did you have any thoughts about the bar, or just how convenient things were?
No, I mean, it's fine. You got to move this stuff along. Sometimes you do shorthand and storytelling. And again, something I always appreciate about Trek in that, you can have lots of different genres grafted onto different episodes. Some things are more action, some things are like a disaster movie. And obviously you have courtroom drama. And this really plays out like a Perry Mason episode. Did you ever watch any Perry Mason when you were a kid?
Yes, I have, actually, yes. But
yeah, I was more of a Matlock guy.
I like
my
Ben
mom loved
Casey.
Mysteries. I never watched Ben Casey. My mom liked Murder, She Wrote, but that was not courtroom. But anyway, the point is, no, I think it's good. It moves along, and I think that we can jump ahead. I really like when he gets to his old grizzled lawyer who does not use LexisNexis in the 24th century. Just has piles of books.
Well, actually, before we get to that, we actually get to meet his ex-girlfriend, who's the judge advocate general. I think that is pretty cool. Ariel Shaw. What I like is when Kirk runs from the bar, and McCoy is there, and he says to the prosecutor, "Yes, that is Captain James T. Kirk." And she goes, "Oh, I know him." And he goes, "How come all my old everyone he knows looks like you, and everyone I know looks like doctors?" I found that kind of funny. Sour grapes there, Bones, I guess,
And I'm a friend, too. An old one.
All of my old friends look like doctors. All of his look like you.
But yeah, she after they have a little talk, Kirk and Ariel, about how she's going to prosecute him, she recommends Samuel Cogley, kind of a old school attorney. He likes books. Books are what separates us from the animals, that and pants. But I like the fact that he had all those federal reporters and Southern reporters. By the way, for those of you who don't know, those were actual real law books. That's what they look like, even though everyone uses electronic stuff. But having worked in law libraries and used those darn things, those are real. You see them all over the place, especially when they want to make people look official and legal. And he also had a computer on his desk that he says he never uses. And if I check my Westlaw bill again, I might agree with that. Westlaw costs a lot of money. But did you like the old coot kind of a guy, Cogley, at this point? I thought it was kind of quirky and fun.
You have to be either an obsessive crackpot who's escaped from his keeper or a Samuel T. Cogley attorney at law.
You're right on both counts. Need a lawyer?
I'm afraid so.
Yes, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I really dug his energy. You do find lawyers like that who just seem to be big, sloppy, brilliant geniuses who do things the same way that they've done for the last 40 years because it's never failed them before, so why would they change? Yeah, I really dug it. And by the way, I know that we're jumping around a little bit, but getting to the actual courtroom when we're looking at the computer records, it's always fascinating to watch it's one of the most amazing things that I found for going on this old journey through the beginning of TOS is to see, as I say, echoes of future Trek, what ends up coming back later on. And here we see these computer records showing that there was merely a yellow alert when he jettisoned the pod, as opposed to his testimony, which said that it was a red alert when he jettisoned the pod. And it turns out that the computer records were altered. Matt, where did we see Kirk and computer records being altered as part of a conspiracy after this?
With computer records being, they did, well, I don't know. You tell me.
Undiscovered country.
Undiscovered country. That's quite true.
The Enterprise, Enterprise A fires 2 torpedoes according to their computer banks. Yes, we fired 2 torpedoes. Scotty is saying, we're fully loaded. We did not fire those torpedoes. Someone went in and changed the computer.
That's true. That's true. But Kirk has an interesting relationship with computers, but that is for definitely echoes of future Trek. We'll come to that at the end. But on this one, we find out a little bit more about Finney. Finney is an older guy. He was an instructor at the academy. As Kirk says, he stayed there a bit too long. And when they were on an initial training cruise, when Kirk's an ensign, he discovers that Finney had left open a reactor pile. The ship would have exploded if Kirk hadn't noticed it, and he just logged it, left open, and because of that, Finney got passed over for promotion. So they think that there's some sort of bitter relationship between the two, and that Kirk had it out for Finney for some reason, which is odd. You would think immediately that Finney would have it out for Kirk. But from what you see at this point, Kirk's doing everything by the book. He's next on the list. He's got, you got to go ride the dragon, so to speak, by sitting. By the way, the pod is outside the ship in a magnetic storm, with everything's going around, throwing the ship around at warp speeds. That's kind of a dangerous spot to be in. And they do that because they're trying to collect scientific data, because sensors get all screwy on the inside of the ship. What do you think of sitting in a pod? Would you do that? I guess so. I mean, if you're ordered.
Like the fact that we're getting back to, hey, Starfleet is primarily an exploration and science mission, right?
Right.
They're not warships. They're not martial like Romulans or Klingons. They're there technically. The main thrust of why they're out there is to explore the galaxy. So I think it really makes a lot of sense that they are willing to sacrifice a lot and take risks in order for the sake of scientific exploration.
Science! Yeah, no, it's pretty wild that they're able to do that. But, it is a weird thing to think that you would, to think that in that day and age with all the advanced tech that you need someone to almost physically sit on the outside of the ship to take care of scientific data. But, hey, it makes the story happen. I do like the fact that when he meets, just to go back to it with Cogley, is like, well, you're either an escaped lunatic or you are Samuel Cogley, attorney at law. The original description was he was supposed to be a rumpled guy from in a rumpled suit. That pretty much is the truth with his crumbly brown suit in this situation. But we get to our trial. Yeah, close enough. We get to our trial. Well, TV trials, as you could tell from the short I made, TV trials are hilarious because they're never really accurate. I mean, you have to turn your law brain off because I think you could probably say objection 9,000 times in just this one episode. Objection! Although I've had judges give leeway, I won't mention their names, doing that, but it's a different situation than real life. But TV law is not the same as real law, as I'm sure you could attest to, Mr. Pontone. Isn't that correct, sir?
This is true, but I really did like the way this went. I liked that the testimony was actually very straightforward, not flowery. It's a lot of how testimony is in real life, where folks, you're not supposed to be very melodramatic during testimony. People don't really care about that, especially judges. They want the facts. They want you to move on. They got a busy schedule. And I really liked how Kirk's lawyer not refused, but just said, hey, no cross-examination. Move on. I've done that many times because I'm saying, you know what? What they've testified to doesn't help them, and I'm not going to open the door to let them rehabilitate it in any way. So no cross, next witness.
Yeah, that's the trick of litigation is you have to listen, take notes, and decide is it worth it to ask a question. And the old trick, the old nugget is you never ask a question you don't already know the answer to, because it could actually destroy your entire case. It just takes practice. I will say the thing I did like, which is also different in this, is that they're sworn in by that computer hand scanner, and they hand over
that was weird.
Floppy disks that contain information about their history, especially for the Vulcanians like Mr. Spock. At this point, they're not exactly called. He's not exactly called a Vulcan, but I do like it. By the way, the computer voices are always going to be Majel Barrett from this point. So she's the computer on the Enterprise, and she's the Starbase's computer as well. So they have a continuity in that. So she's actually in everything. This starts her journey to being the computer's voice. I actually like that as well. What did you think of the trial that was going on in there? That was, they're accusing Kirk of doing something improper. You got to see the bridge recorder, which sometimes appears and sometimes does not. What do you think about that entire little bit? Did you have any
I thought it
concerns?
was cool, especially knowing, I thought it was pretty well done as to, I was genuinely involved in the mystery. I was like, man, how are they going to wrap this up? Like,
Yeah.
what is the outcome? And I did not see the reveal coming. And also, I mean, Echoes of Future Trek, I think that we see this in the encounter at Farpoint, where they say, hey, pull back the security data, but they're just showing footage from earlier in the show.
Right.
This is actually much more accurate, believe it or not, a show that is, being broadcast 20 years before its successor. It actually looks much more like security footage and not like a crew and a couple of assistant cameras were following around the bridge staff, which is why I am getting into this. It is quite true. I think it was the Red Letter guys who noted that the first season of TNG is more dated than the first season of TOS. And
Yes.
I would agree with that.
Yes, that's 100%. When we eventually get to Next Generation, we can do some comparisons on it too. But this one is a little bit more up to date. But in my head, every time the prosecutor asks a question, all I kept thinking, so on the video recorder, Mr. Spock, when you were picking your nose, as we could clearly see here, I always imagine someone saying that. It's kind of disturbing, though. They record every last thing on the bridge.
I was thinking that. But
Huh?
I mean, also, who knows? I mean, maybe in the 24th century, they're just, or 23rd century here, they just don't give a crap. They're
Well,
like, yep.
Yeah, but you also see this again. I mean, you do. We see this in Star Trek 3. You see the security tape, or actually a recording of the engineering section in Star Trek 3, which is, again, scenes from Star Trek 2. This recording of what happens on the ship happens throughout Star Trek, on and off again. But I do like that as well. But then we have the point where they ask Mr. Cogley, are you going to ask any questions? He's like, well, we have the one person that we haven't spoken to is with a computer. That's the one thing that's interesting. And, that is the real central point on this. It's man versus machine, or is it really man versus himself and how they run things? It's...
No, it's man versus the person who's framing him. Can we get into
Exactly.
this big reveal?
Yes, it is. Okay, well, what actually happens is that Spock figures out, and just as Cogley's about to throw in the towel, they come to Spock had discovered on the Enterprise, while playing chess, that he was able to beat the computer because there was some inaccuracy in its records. And in the records, someone had manipulated it, and they pointed out to it that the only three people could manipulate the computer to tell the actual truth was the captain, the executive officer, Mr. Spock, and the alleged dead guy. That is where everyone's like, well, wait a minute. The actual dead guy could have actually manipulated it? That doesn't make sense. Why would he do that? So they adjourn themselves after we hear Cogley's speech about actual human documents, and several of them that are fake. You have the Magna Carta and Declaration of Independence, etc., and then you have the declarations of the Mars colonies. That's a Star Trek trope. Say two real things and three fake ones. So then they decide to adjourn to the Enterprise, over objection, by the way, of Miss Shaw. I would have objected too. They get into the Enterprise, and they discover the records have been manipulated, and they figure out a way to find out if Finney is actually still alive by using it looks like the microphone I'm using right now to eliminate everyone's heartbeats. By the way, there is no such thing as white noise, is what the white sounds. That's BS. That was made up by Mankiewicz. That I thought was pretty funny. But what did you think of that little, where they finally figure out that Finney is the one who probably could have caused his own demise or tried to frame Kirk? What's your thoughts on that?
I did not see it coming, and especially they really didn't telegraph it, but at the same time they didn't cheat, because you hear Finney, you see the footage, you see him talking, he sounds sane, he sounds confident. Kirk seems confident too, and not like he's trying to murder a guy. I thought it was very good, and again, we're in a less sophisticated Enterprise where, of course, in modern Enterprise, in the Enterprise D, you could have just asked the computer, "Hey, locate this crew member." They'd be like, "It's in 10 forward, under a table, hiding with a phaser." That's where it is. But he's hiding in engineering. I will say this: this is the most cracked out, drunk, weird looking person I've ever seen in a Starfleet uniform. He looks like an absolute madman. I mean, that's like my main kind of rolling my eyes at the realism. This guy was a Starfleet officer going to work every day looking like this. Like, they cast a guy who looks like, crazy drunk number 5 from Central Casting and threw a shirt on him, and he's absolutely bonkers. He's insane.
Well, he's actually was a TV actor for years. He played the role of Captain Midnight. So that's actually pretty cool. That's Richard Webb, who plays Ben Finney. Captain Midnight is like a Flash Gordon-like show. So he was the lead star of that show for years. And it's actually quite a coup to get him on there. He's supposed to be looking like a madman, and he looks like it, that's for sure. But if you notice the jumping ahead where they use the microphone to hide everyone's heartbeat except for Finney's when you find him, that fight between Kirk and Finney, if you turn away for a second, you look back, you won't notice. But if you really stare at it, you can see it's two different stuntmen fighting each other. It's not...
of course. The stuntman, it was really bad this time.
Yeah, this time it wasn't too good.
Sometimes it's pretty, And again, it's always funny. I'm like, what was going on the day again?
Mm-hmm.
There are 1,000 different reasons. Maybe because obviously, Kirk Shatner was a great stuntman and very physical, and he obviously did a lot of his own stunts.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, who knows? Maybe they were shooting for 14 hours and was like, okay, Star can go home. Let's do this one with the stuntman. Or maybe he was depressed because of his divorce or something. There are 1,000 different things going on.
Well, that's like 2 divorces on the set, Shatner's and Mankiewicz's. So you got that going on. I find that oddly timed, I guess. Maybe it was the season. Who knew? But, but then you have the voiceover where Finney is actually sabotaging the Enterprise. It'll crash into the planet where the star base is.
Isn't his daughter
revenge.
on the ship at that point?
Yeah, Jamie's on the ship. That it's like, Ben, what's your plan here? It makes no sense. So you want to frame Kirk for murdering you, but then what's your plan after that? Where do you go? You can't be yourself anymore. You're not going to be able to see your daughter anymore. If you come out, then you release Kirk and you're wanted. It's a very poor criminal enterprise, I'll tell you that much, and no puns intended. And then he's going to try and sabotage the ship that the Admiralty Board is on and everyone else? I don't know.
Not a great plan.
I think he lost his marbles.
That's the thing. He was a little too crazy. Right. I mean, realistically, this Kirk passing him over was many years ago, correct?
Yeah, it was many years ago.
So he was just a completely sane, competent Starfleet officer for maybe almost a decade.
Right.
Until he decides to go absolutely insane.
Right.
Maybe he was hitting the sauce. Who knows? Because he looks like he's absolutely drunk. And that's the thing, too. People have to understand it's not the best writing because Starfleet officers are the elites. They're like astronauts or Navy SEALs. They're not... They're not bad Starfleet officers out there for the most part, right?
For the most part, right.
As in incompetent.
No, they're not incompetent. And remember, the Enterprise is the best of the one of the best. When you're on those Constitution class ships, you're considered the best of the best. Not just the Enterprise, all the Constitution class ships. You're supposed to be basically the top space exploration group of the Enterprise from a space vehicle from the other end of the known universe. Here we got, he's lost his mind. He's trying to hurt Captain Kirk for something that happened so far in the past, and he's doing anything to hurt him. It just doesn't make sense. But again, he lost his mind. Then after the stuntmen fight each other, Kirk is able to save the Enterprise and again have his shirt ripped, which makes that Tim Allen movie Galaxy Quest better.
Galaxy Quest.
See, you got your shirt off again. That's actually hilarious. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. And Kirk is cleared. But then we have the weirdest lines at the end, which is Cogley's going to defend Finney. That's what I would call a conflict of interest if I ever saw one. You know, that's just TV law drama. That's not real. I don't think you'd be defending a person you were trying to basically discredit in your main case in chief. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's so little conflict in the Federation that there's only like 2 JAG officers on the entire Federation. So, hey, man, maybe it's like, listen, it's all they got.
Yeah.
And remember, we are dealing with very ascendant humans, you know, who have, for the most part, pride themselves on their professionalism. So maybe it's not a big deal for. Maybe the conflicts of interest only can occur when there's an actual undue influence. So maybe there was not going to be any.
You know, before we I think that's pretty much about the story. But I just wanted to hit some odds and ends, unless there's something more particular you want to hit on this one.
No, I mean, honestly, it's a really straightforward story. There's not too much crazy to comment on, but competent, right? Again, it's like just like yesterday's Tomorrow. Simple story, except you could do the simple story badly, which is last week's episode, or a simple story very well.
Right, except it's still called Tomorrow is Yesterday, but that really made an impression on you, didn't it?
Well, whatever.
I will tell you, this is technically the first episode where you see the dress uniforms, but since you see this after the menagerie, it's the second time we're seeing it. I like their little fruit salad, how it's not like in a square, it's like in a weird circular pattern. I like that. The fruit salad meaning the campaign pins that are on the
medals.
That's right, on the left side of their jackets. I think
that's a very old-timey term. I only know that because one of my favorite movies is from 1953, Stalag 17, and they make a reference to medals being fruit salad. Where'd you get that from?
Well, that's because that's what it looks like. It's all the multiple colors of the campaigns that people are in. I do find it humorous that Kirk's record of achievement is so dramatically high. It's incredible. It's like, you know, there hasn't been something he hasn't been in, which makes you wonder, and also made Robert Jessman wonder, just how old is Captain Kirk?
Well,
it's a good question.
Same age as Shatner. He's probably in his late 30s at the time.
Yeah, but he's the youngest captain in Starfleet, actually. That's the idea behind it.
And it is appropriate because later on, you know, you always hear people talk about in future, whenever they talk about Kirk in the future, he's a legend. So we are watching the annals of not just any old regular Starfleet captain, but a person who would go on to be a legend.
Well, that's true. But then we have just the last little bit. Elijah Cook, who plays Cogley, could not remember more than one line at a time.
Oh, no.
So they had to keep cutting. And now he's been in, and Elijah Cook's been in a lot of things. Like he was in this little film called The Maltese Falcon. You might have heard of it.
Oh, of course. Yes.
So he's in a lot of things. So you have some actual heavy hitters here between Elijah Cook and Richard Webb, and even Percy Rodriguez, the Commodore. These are not lightweights in Hollywood or in TV. You can IMDb the millions of things that they've all been in. But just to round it out here, one of the things that Mark Daniels was not thrilled with this because he just thought the script was too much all over the place. And right after he finished filming this, he immediately went to do the menagerie. So I guess they were hey, Bill, don't take off that green satin shirt yet. We got another one coming right up. And just to let you know, NBC and Desilu were pleased because the special effects were at a bare minimum, even with that pretty cool-looking set in the background for Starbase 11. Starbase 11, I still think, is one of the best sets for a human starbase, and it's one of 2 starbases we see in all of the original series. That, with all the special effects, with the shots and whatever they have, is $5,798 in 1966 dollars, and the entire film was $175,182 in 1966 dollars.
Wait, that's how much this episode cost?
$175,000.
Where did all that money go?
That's
like the same budget as the Gorn episode.
No, the Gorn one was was actually a lot bit more. It was $192,000, I believe. If you'll give me a second, I'll take a look. But this in $1966, in 2024 dollars, is $1,680,177.10. It's a lot of money when you think about it for a TV episode shot in about 6 days. It's very difficult to imagine that. But yeah, that's pretty much basically it. There is some little bit more if you get to the James Blish Star Trek novels. There's a little bit more fleshing out. James Blish always did that. He fleshed out lots of the stories, and I recommend everyone get the Star Trek stories. But I think that pretty much wraps it up. I think we should come to our ratings and anything else we want to talk about. So, Mike, on our very scientific 1 to 10 scale, what are you going to give this delightful episode?
I liked it a lot. I thought the acting was good. I liked the reveal. That being said, it was not that entertaining, and I do have to rate this compared to every other episode. I.e., I'm grading this like a law school exam. It's fighting the others. It's not just based on the respective merit. So I'm going to give it a 7.
Wow. You know what? I'm going to give it a 7 as well. I'm going to give it a 7.
That's the first time we hooked up. We linked up.
Yay! No, I'm going to give it a 7 for very similar reasons. I thought that, well, for me, the law stuff is a little bit dodgy. It always has been. I don't like the fight at the end between the stuntmen. And I found that the reasoning behind Finney trying to sabotage Kirk because Kirk did his job by getting him in trouble, I found that kind of weak. I do like the new remastered versions of the special effects, although the original versions are not too terribly off. I like the Starbase set. I even like the cardboard chart on the wall that tells you all those other ships. There's 12 other ships there. They're not all Constitution-class ships, and they're all in various states of repair. So I did like that as well.
Yeah, that was fun.
But yeah, so there we are, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, that pretty much, I guess, wraps it up. But are you getting ready now for anything else you want to mention, or anything else you want to just hit upon for us here today?
No, I mean, we got a lot of more new viewers, and we're really grateful for
welcome
that.
Everyone.
Welcome. Great to have you. We're working on a video episode soon.
Someday
soon. And yeah, just really happy that we're reaching everyone. And if you guys have any comments or suggestions for the show, please tell us, email us. What's our email again, Captain?
Our email is yellingatgas@gmail.com. It's on our YouTube website, our YouTube page. You can click it over there. You can also find us on Facebook at Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies, and obviously you can contact us through our various pods, which are in pretty much all of them, from Apple Podcasts to Podbean. And thank you again for joining us all, and we hope you enjoy the journey with us. Don't forget to shop in our TeePublic store. And let me tell you what we got coming up next, and I'm only going to say it with a hint. Mike, are you of the body? Yes or no? Do you know?
I don't know what he's talking about, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to say yes.
Well, for most of the time, you want to hope that you're part of the body, but next time, on our next episode, we see Return of the Archons, one of the greatest episodes of Star Trek, according to most people.
Really?
It's a really weird one. Ronald Moore loves this episode a lot. But we'll come to that next time. Yeah, everyone's favorite, Ronald Moore, DS9 guy, maker of the new Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, there we are. That brings us to another close of Yelling at Gaseous Anomalies, and we will see you next time, everyone. Live long and prosper, and we'll see you out there. So, have a good evening, Mike.
Thank you, Captain. Have a good evening. Live long and prosper, everyone.
Mr. Spock, you're the most cold-blooded man I've ever known.
Why, thank you, Doctor.